Putin, Biden conclude hour-long call on Ukraine crisis.
Here's a summary of the article.
Moscow, with the risk of war looming larger, Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden held a high-stakes telephone call Saturday as a tense world watched and worried that an invasion of Ukraine could begin within days. Advertisement. Russia has massed well over 100,000 troops near the Ukraine border and has sent troops to exercises in neighboring Belarus, but denies that it intends to launch an offensive against Ukraine. U.S. officials said anew that Russia's buildup of firepower near Ukraine has reached the point where it could invade on short notice. Biden has said the U.S. military will not enter a war in Ukraine, but he has promised severe economic sanctions against Moscow, in concert with international allies. Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, said Americans in Ukraine should not expect the U.S. military to rescue them in the event that air and rail transportation is severed after a Russian invasion. In addition to the more than 100,000 ground troops that U.S. officials say Russia has assembled along Ukraine's eastern and southern borders, the Russians have deployed missile, air, naval and special operations forces, as well as supplies to sustain a war. Russia is demanding that the West keep former Soviet countries out of NATO. It also wants NATO to refrain from deploying weapons near its border and to roll back alliance forces from Eastern Europe, demands flatly rejected by the West. Russia and Ukraine have been locked in a bitter conflict since 2014, when Ukraine's Kremlin-friendly leader was driven from office by a popular uprising.
This post received a score of 21,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Guess we'll find out the outcome of said call shortly.
Both sides say call was a failure. Same with the call between the two foreign ministers that was happening at the same time.
Poor reception maybe.
Hashtag can you hear me now?
Your mic is muted.
I'm going to try leaving Ukraine and coming back in again. Let's see if that fixes it.
Fine, I can hear you now, Vladimir. Clear and plain and coming through fine. I'm coming through fine too, eh? Good, then. Well then, as you say, we're both coming through fine. Good. Well, it's good that you're fine, and I'm fine. I agree with you. It's great to be fine.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Here we go, boys. Nature combat toe-to-toe with the Ruskies.
Guess I get to play Fallout in real life now.
Readout of call just released by White House.
Where do we find what Putin had to say?
According to Ukrainian news website rbc.ua, he complained about NATO expansion and that Ukrainian side isn't honoring Minsk agreements, so pretty much first part was the same as all other recent calls and then second part was the same as all prior approximately 8 years. I can't with this anymore, but I can't stop keeping up even though I won't have anywhere to run if something does happen.
Greater than according to Ukrainian news website rbc.ua. He complained about NATO expansion. What I don't understand about the Russian argument is that if they do annex Ukraine, they'll immediately have 4 NATO members at their border.
No. If they annex Ukraine, they'll have a buffer zone between Russia and 4 NATO members where currently they have a NATO-aligned neighbor that's bordering 4 NATO members. Given the publicly available sentiments of Ukraine, that'll be an extremely difficult annexation due to the sentiments of the people being annexed. If Russia wanted Ukraine, it would most likely want it so it can set it up however it wants in case of conflict with aforementioned 4 NATO members.
Greater than probably in preparation for tensions over climate. Can you expand on this? What tensions and why does Russia fear them specifically?
Worsening climate change will mean areas with previously stable weather will have more and more dramatic weather patterns, and areas previously very hospitable to life will become more and more inhospitable. They would also make areas previously inhospitable to life more hospitable, meaning areas in some nations that were always treated as pointless uninhabitable lands may become places people will have to go to. Either because they are better, or because their previous locations are worse. Furthermore, as the world moves away from oil, Russia will lose its deterrent against Europe, which is its pipelines of oil fueling EU. So in the future, Russia's massive expanses of land that are currently very inhospitable will become hospitable, the EU will become inhospitable and dangerous, and Russia will no longer have the card of "don't look at me wrong or I'll cut off your oil," because the EU won't be nearly as reliant on its oil.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.